Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. In this verse of Ashtavakra Gita, sage Ashtavakra tells Raja Janaka and through him to all living entities. In this ocean of existence, there is only self. Bondage and liberation do not exist. They are the figments of imagination of the brains of every living entity. This means that there is only self in the initial stages. Self means soul and super soul rolled in one. Your real ego. Your real ego is that you are the soul and not the mind body complex. Bondage and liberation start when you start identifying with this mind body complex. Otherwise, you are abiding in the self. There is no question of bondage or liberation. Let me elucidate this a little further. Suppose you stopped identifying yourself as the soul and began identifying with the mind body complex. Immediately after your doing so, you become victimized by the five evils, that is, lust, anger, greed, illusion, and false ego. Plus, you are subjected to the five senses from the etheric body. They are sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. You become slave to all these. And once you become a slave to all these, bondage starts. You are helpless without them. You cannot do anything without them. You will do anything to satisfy your senses, whether it is tasting good food, looking at beautiful places, hearing excellent music, or touching some dear and near ones. As long as you are in that process, you will be in bondage. When it comes to smell, it is the same case. You are suffering from the bondage of smelling only fragrant flowers, perfume, etc. When there is no smell or odor or body odor or bad smell, then you are happy. But when these things come in, you become unhappy. You cannot stand the smell of a bad odor, that is bondage. On the other hand, if you were indifferent to fragrance as well as pungent smell, then you are liberated. Same is the case with sight. You want to see only beauty all around, whether it is beautiful people or beautiful relatives or beautiful things, etc. Suppose you come across something which you have to see and which is not according to you beautiful, then it is bondage. You cannot be with that. The bondage started when you got acclimatized to seeing beautiful things. Now, anything which is not that beautiful makes you irritated. Same is the case with hearing. You want to hear only praise, beautiful music, people calling you a big shot, etc. But that is bondage. On the other hand, if someone criticizes you or finds your fault or makes some dirty sound and you are irritated by that, that is bondage. On the other hand, if you are not at all interested or bothered about anybody praising you or criticizing you, if you become totally indifferent to that, that is liberation. Same is the case with taste. If you are given good sweets, fruits, chocolates, your favorite vegetables, etc., you are happy. On the other hand, if you are forced to eat, say, bitter gourd or chili or something which is very pungent and very rude, bitter in taste, then you become unhappy. That is bondage. On the other hand, if you are indifferent to taste, if eating a piece of sweet and eating a piece of bitter gourd are the same to you, you are liberated. Same is the case with touch. You want to touch or be physically close only to people who you love. Actually, you don't love, you only lust. Because your love is limited to the skin deep body mind complex of another individual. If, on the other hand, you don't care who is touching you, whether someone who you love or someone who you are indifferent to or someone who is hating you, then you are totally liberated. You don't care. You abide in the self. Same is the case with the five evils: lust, anger, greed, illusion, and false ego are bondages. There have been several cases where a person, even so he or she was extremely great, fell flat on his or her face because of any or more of these evils. Gone was that person's greatness. People only remembered his or her weakness towards something. Lust. Lust, as you know, is infatuation, a love for the body, and it has nothing to do with the soul. Conjugal love is lust, whereas platonic love is pure love. When you are so interested in conjugal love towards another human being and not God, then you are in bondage. On the other hand, if your devotion towards God is conjugal, it is liberation. Because here, because you cannot touch God, you will be touching only yourself, and there is no harm in doing that. Same is the case with greed. When you try to covet other people's property, that is bondage. When you are indifferent to other people's opulence, it is liberation. Then anger, if you are angry with others, it is bondage. If you are indifferent to others, it is liberation. Illusion, if you feel that you are a super important person, it is what makes you a megalomaniac. You think you are the greatest of all, that is bondage. If you think that you are just the self and that all others are also the same self, they are individual souls and they are all God's creation, that is liberation. On another, false ego. False ego is when you identify with your mind-body complex. Real ego is when you identify with yourself. Please remember this. You must abide by the self. Once you start doing that, there is no question of bondage or liberation. You are already liberated. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this subject. If you sincerely feel that I am talking sense, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that I can keep reminding you of my other videos. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.